Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We would like to welcome you to yet another series with the Thai Food Network. We have a very good panel, a very interesting panel today, which Sanket will take us forward with. Uh, with regards to our food network, where the community is building, please join us on Slack. The link will be shared in the chat box. This is the first of the Women Foodpreneur series. The next one is scheduled for the 8th, where we have actress as well as foodpreneur Farizad, who will be joining us for the session. Post the session, you will also receive a thank you mail with the link to the next session. So over to you, Sanket. Please take the session forward.
Thank you, Trupti. Hello, fellowpreneurs and hustlers. Hope the dreaded month of accounting isn't troubling you guys too much. Anyways, I'm sure your CA would have given you 5 calls by now to file your February GST. But today's session is not about filing returns. We are still a special interest group doing food, and we plan to stick to that. So today's session is about women who are rocking our food industry. We have with us the movers and shakers in their respective spaces. Let me welcome Rashmi Daga, Meera Jhala, Dinika Bhatia, and Ahana Gautam. Rashmi is the founder of Fresh Menu. The company, I believe, introduced internet kitchens to India. She's dabbled with a lot of industries before settling with food. Her last corporate stint, I think, was with where she was the sales head of Ola. They've set up numerous satellite kitchens across the country and dish out multi-cuisine, healthy and fresh meal packets for their customers pan India. Meera is an operating partner at ScaleX. Uh, she's been a serial entrepreneur and been involved with quite a few food startups and successfully sold them in the past. Meera has been recognized by MDTV Food as one of the most inspiring women entrepreneurs in India and will be graduating from Harvard in 21. Uh, Danika conceptualized the company she's founded, Nutty Gritties, during an entrepreneurship program during her graduation days. So, wake up, entrepreneurs, you're already late. Nutty Gritties is already a category leader. Danika is a fifth generation entrepreneur, by the way, and she started her second brand, 87, to highlight the legacy of her family business, which originated in 1887. She's received several recognitions from the prestigious institutes, and the fitness enthusiast and the spirituality in her drives her business decisions as well. Ahana is CEO of Open Secret, a healthy and tasty snacking company. She's out there to capture the 4 p.m. snacking market. Open Secret has been funded by some of the marquee investors like Vijay Shekhar Sharma and Kunal Bahal, to name a few. Ahana has graduated from IIT Bombay and has an MBA from Harvard. Uh, so we'll begin with Q&A and panel discussion, followed by audience interaction. In case the audience wants to pose any questions to any of our panelists, please put them down in the comments and we will take it for you. So, Rashmi, I'll take the liberty of starting with you. So you've worn many hats in the corporate world before embarking on the fresh menu journey. So do you recommend entrepreneurs to work before taking the entrepreneurial plunge? And what learnings did you derive from the corporate world while starting up?
I think a mixed bag, because see, when I started back in 2003, and I think that time India was just opening up as a market. There were no venture capitalists in India. There was no capital really to start your own business till you were born in a rich family. So I think fundamentally, I think we started in a time when working or finding a job itself was difficult, or the most lucrative option to do. I think it does help to work in different companies. I think the experience both of working in MNCs as well as working with startups, I think really prepare you for what at least some of the pitfalls you will avoid as an entrepreneur. So the experience, the network resourcefulness, and some of this people management capability would be helpful. I think today the world is very, very different. I think markets far more open to accepting very young entrepreneurs. When you're very young, you have a lot of energy and time on your side. So I know when I was 25, I could work 16 hours a day for all the part of the year. And right now, I think it's much harder. So I guess you have the benefit of a lot of ambition and energy on your side, while the experience could be a little lesser, but you could supplement the experience. So I think for today's people, I won't really suggest that you have to work and then try to become an entrepreneur. If you really have a great idea and you're really passionate about it, please jump in right away. But find your resources, find what you are good at and what you would need apart from that. But when I started, I don't think there was the other way out. And I don't regret doing those stints before starting out.
Very valuable. Makes sense. So, Meera, moving on to you. So, I think you returned from US back in 2009, and then you entered the food business. Uh, what did you think about the food industry back then? And do you think the food industry has taken off in the last decade the way you had envisaged?
So when I moved back in 2009, the food industry was extremely fragmented. Not only the food industry, the internet penetration in our country was at about 5%, which if you compare it to today is at about 45%. So the entire food tech industry has benefited from the internet penetration and the increase in disposable income, right? So the business has grown, lots of brands have mushroomed and good brands out there that are building the business. However, if you compare that to other countries, say the US, China, or even a smaller country like Indonesia, a US would have, say, 75 odd brands with 500 plus locations. The same thing in China would be about 35 or 40 different brands. But in India, we have 3 or 4. So I would say that we've grown a lot in the last decade, but we are still at a very nascent stage. So the next decade is going to bring a lot of push to this industry.
Sure. Makes sense. So, Dinika, moving on to you. So you are a fifth generation entrepreneur. I mean, your family started business before India got independence. That is in 1887. So please tell us the pros and cons of being a fifth generation entrepreneur. And was it difficult to do a startup within a family that's been in business for like the last 100 years?
So thank you for a kind introduction, Sanket. And I think it's been actually one of my biggest assets because I think I have nuts flowing in my blood. And the biggest pro is that being an entrepreneur, you need passion. And I think the rest of the speakers would agree with me. And there was no lack thereof of passion because I had literally grown up with badam, kaju, pista, akroot, kishmish around me. And, starting just sharing a little bit about the background. My family was in the business of dry fruits since 1887. So it started with the barter system. There would be coffee, tea, and cloth that would get bartered with dry fruits that used to come from the Middle East. Our first base was in Dera Ismail Khan, which is the northwest frontier province of Pakistan. And our first office in Delhi was in 1900 in Khari Bauli, which I'm sure everybody listening would know is the wholesale hub of Delhi, of India actually. And till about a couple of years back, 80 to 90% of the trade of dry fruits used to be conducted out of Khari Bauli. And my father actually joined the business of the business when about 50 containers of almonds were being imported into India, and today there's 8,000 containers that get imported in a year. So there's the kind of knowledge base, the kind of connects, because where we source our raw materials from, we get the raw material directly from the source. Being one of the largest importers, our vendors are people we've shared a relationship with since the last couple of decades. So that's actually one of the biggest pros, because it gives us that opportunity to be 100% confident about the quality of our product, since we're trying to build a really premium brand. And one of our primary pillars is to provide the best quality and health, which also is part of quality as well. So that's actually, I would say, the biggest pro for us, knowing that the material that we're putting into Nutty Gritties is 100% certified, comes from the right source. Plus, also, we have everything in our facility in terms of quality control. But it kind of helps when someone who's worked in nuts since 40 years looks at an almond and can whiff a bad almond from a distance. So that's really helpful. In terms of cons, I think, I haven't really seen any big con till the time my family actually started taking me seriously, till the time the dhanda started making money. So, it's a family business since 5 generations. What we set up, what DRB Foods was completely branched off. I was actually the first woman in India to enter the dry fruits industry, and for the first couple of years, it was like just quite a joke that, oh, are you really going to do this? And it was hard for my own family to take me seriously, the industry to take me seriously. So 11 years back, I have broken those barriers, and I think now I'm pretty happy to share that Nutty Gritties has had a successful journey, and I think both the pros and cons have been valuable, because had I not had that resistance, I wouldn't have wanted to build that brand that Nutty Gritties is today.
Thank God for you that nepotism is only in Bollywood as of now. It's spoken about in Bollywood only. Otherwise, all of us here would have been like nepotism. Yeah.
No, it's not easy to just be born in a family and be doing the same thing. Today, times have changed a lot today. So
Yeah, for sure. So, Ahana, moving on to you. So, I thought your that story that you shared with me about how you started Open Secret was really intriguing. So, would you want to like share your backstory on how you came to just start the Open Secret and your idea behind it?
Absolutely. I think first, let me just say I'm super excited to be sharing this panel with this rockstar panelist, and I'm super looking forward to hearing their stories. So the reason why I started Open Secret, it actually goes back to my childhood. I grew up in a really small city in Rajasthan called Bharatpur. I don't know if you would have heard the name. Was raised by a working mother, and she single-handedly raised me and my brother. And I used to be this overweight kid. Like if I actually show you the pictures, I was 3x my current size. And I still remember I used to come back from school. I would open the lock and I would eat all the junk food which was available in the house. And at that time, I didn't realize the importance of eating right. Fast forward 20 years later, I would say that, when I was studying at Harvard Business School, I observed how conscious people were about what they were putting inside their body. And if you go to any grocery store in US, right, I mean, there is an aisle full of healthy, tasty, convenient snacking options for families to choose from. And this actually reminded me of my own childhood, where my mother actually struggled to get a healthy and a tasty packaged food in the house. At the same time, my sister-in-law back in India, she was still facing the same issue of getting access to healthy and convenient and tasty snacks for my niece. And it was very clear to me that this problem had a transcendent generation. And that's how I became very intrigued about the food space. And as I started researching more, it was so bizarre for me that it's such a huge category. It's more than $12 billion category. And there is still not a clear access for families. Like, why do Indian families have to eat junk? And if you read more about it, India is one of the, I think, country with the most unhealthy packaged foods in the world. So I think that was something which was very, very clear. And I think at that time, I decided that I want to come back to India. I want to create a brand for mothers, for families, a very authentic, transparent brand. And the mission is that, we really want every Indian family to snack better. And a whole mantra with the Open Secret is that, we want to unjunk family's favorite snacks. And when I was starting this brand, even people ask me, why do you name it Open Secret? Right? What's the reason behind that? And for me, it was very, very clear that mother is a North Star. And for us, we just want to innovate based on what she's asking. So I had spoken to a lot of mothers before launching Open Secret, right? When we launched cookies, she said, I don't want maida in my cookies. So we unchunked it. So the whole idea with Open Secret is, rather than keeping us at the pedestal and telling mothers who already feel judged about their actions, we want to keep mothers at the pedestal. They are our North Stars, and just keep innovating what they're asking for, giving them a perfect blend of health and taste, and creating a platform to unjunk snacks for all families.
Sure. Very interesting. So, Rashmi, coming back to you. So, you, not many people know, but I think Freshman was the pioneer of cloud kitchens in India. I mean, you literally started an internet kitchen when we used to use internet to surf on Orkut. So what was your thought process behind this? I mean, how, how were you convinced that this would, work on the internet? People would order online. I think back in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
2014.
14.
Okay. See, one, I think around the world, and there was a lot happening around mobile first food. So globally, and especially I think in the US, there were a lot of companies which were offering, a 10-minute delivery, curbside delivery, a very small daily rotating menu, and, make sure that people can get food on the go. So I think there was a bunch of new options being shown on how food could be made more convenient. And that was one starting point for the trigger. In the US, something called a Blue Apron was also picking up like wildfire, which was more of the meal kit business. I think our research here clearly pointed to the fact that we are more lazy than we would like to accept. And working out of a meal kit was not going to work. So it was ready food. And in India, food delivery, there was a lot of opportunity. See, back in 2014, there was only Food Panda, which was offering aggregation. And most people, apart from Domino's, there was no brand which would take delivery. You can trust their delivery. Otherwise, people had a couple of pamphlets and restaurant brochures to call and directly order and then wait for their boy to show up. So I think one, it seemed like there was a massive opportunity out there waiting. We believe that instead of aggregation, the full stack model where you really own the end to end part of it in a country where a lot of these services are not available and supply chain is broken, is where something really valuable could be built. So that's the starting point of Fresh Menu. There was no term like a cloud kitchen back then. The reason we chose to do these functional kitchens, and people could only deliver, one was to keep focus that we are focused on only delivery food. We are not confusing with dine in plus delivery. We by the way want to do delivery, nothing like that. It was 100% focused on delivery business. And if you see, we were solving for part of the QSR problem that high street rentals was like almost 20% of revenue. And we wanted to make the PNL work. So it was important that you move to low cost kitchens, low cost rentals. So don't spend on decor, don't spend on rentals was the key. And therefore these kitchens on, by lanes and functional kitchens came up. So I think a lot of it was the necessity. We are, I think, the original, internet kitchen people who really built it for online business, and therefore we are more like internet first business. Like the entire company would work with a lot more data purely because that's how it has always been designed. Right now, I think it's the buzzword in post COVID. I think a lot of people believe cloud kitchen is the only way to move forward. So good for us. I think we've done all the hard work and heavy lifting to make it look like a successful business model. Now I think and country of our size need tons of brands and tons of options. We never thought we alone could serve all of India. So I think these are good times ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, these days you see a cloud kitchen in every second home in your building as well. It's mad. So, what are your, if you had to start Fresh Menu today, would you have done anything differently from what you did in 2014? I mean, any learnings?
From a business point of view, I think maybe very few things we would try and do differently, because I think this is a tough business. It needs immense amount of focus. It needs a lot of iteration. I don't think there was any playbook or there was any rule book available to say how to get it right. And therefore, even if we've made some mistakes on the way, we were bound to make them. So I think from a business point of view, I don't think we would do something very differently. As a founder, I think I would do something differently, which is, as a founder, the responsibility of creating aura around your business, really always talking, networking about your business. And I think that's part of the women thing, that we're very focused on doing our own work and not really putting it out there in the open. I think that's something that I would change going forward.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, Meera, moving on to you again. So please, I mean, you've done many food ventures in the past. So, please tell us a little bit more about your food, the food ventures that you've done and your takeaways from them.
Sure. Firstly, I would like to say, Rashmi, I completely agree with everything you've said, and especially about women not playing up the business as much as you see men doing. So I hope if there are other women entrepreneurs listening here, that should be a huge takeaway. So as far as me, In 2009, when I moved back, I started a B2B corporate food services business in Gurgaon called the Urban Kitchen. Back then, the industry was extremely fragmented. There was no operator that was, focusing on hygiene and food safety and quality, and delivering a consistent product. So we actually got a lot of, customer love right away, and we broke even in the first 4 months, which seemed like really easy. Back then it felt like, oh, and that was my first business, so it was just a very, very exciting time. And post that, we grew very rapidly for the first 3 years. Then we started getting a lot of, so we were servicing large offices and MNCs. Then we started getting a lot of requests from smaller offices, which we could not do through our brand, the Urban Kitchen. So we experimented, and this was back in early 2013, and we came up with a B2C brand called Curry in a Hurry. My belief was that if we kept the menu simple enough and the ordering process straightforward, that would really streamline the office lunch. So we had only 2 options for our customers to choose from. It was a veg or a non-veg. And we were trying to test out a subscription model here. We were ahead of our time in this. And I wish I had, the learnings that I have right now, I wish I had them then to truly be able to scale the business. But we had a very good, strong following in the Gurgaon region. Post that, I took the learnings from the B2B and the B2C business, and I started Purist, which was a B2B2C business, where the corporates were our primary clients, but we were servicing the employees within those offices directly. The focus was on health and food safety and hygiene. And this was the business that was acquired by CureFit. And as part of the acquisition, I joined their team, and I was heading their business in the north. So that is my journey.
Lovely. So, I mean, my next question actually was, why did you decide to shift to a more consulting and funding role? But I think with all the takeaways that you've got from your previous businesses kind of summarizes why you've got into consulting. It makes a lot of sense. But anyways, I will maybe I would want to hear it from you. Like, if you would want to elaborate more on what ScaleX does and why this role now versus doing a business on your own.
So at ScaleX, we truly believe in partnering with the founders. Having been a founder myself, I can relate to the challenges that founders face. Putting out the daily fires. You can kind of take the eye off the eye of scale thinking, so to speak. So we truly are an extension to the founding team and help them operationalize and build the business for scale. And try to help them enable tech wherever possible to truly think of the big picture. Also personally, having been on the other side and then worked on a scale business, I felt it was the right time for me to be on investing and overall help the startup ecosystem and also bring a woman's voice to the table.
Sure. So, Dinika, moving on to you. So what is your take on the FMCG space in India? And especially if you would want to emphasize on the women in the retail business, especially, I think I'm assuming you come from a family which must have been more male dominated in the retail biz because it's since 1887. So if you would want to emphasize on that as well.
Absolutely. In fact, I love what Meera said about women and Rashmi as well, that, more women need to be out there. And it's not only women in retail, it's not only women in food, it's not women in any particular industry, but it's women in general. And it's because of the conditioning that society has put on us, we end up limiting ourselves. And the only approach to that is inside out. We all have to start believing, and I hope there's women out there listening to me, and I would really like to say that we all have to start believing that we can have it all. And it all starts with believing in ourselves. I've come across people who end up doubting themselves for being amazing people. And that is because of the conditioning that society has put on women that, oh no, you're meant to be only here, not here. So there is no difference whatsoever, because everybody is equal in this universe. And so are women. Women have equal potential. And once we build up that confidence and that belief in ourselves, there is nothing outside us that can stop us. And even everything around in our environment will start falling into place. So it all actually starts with self belief and just confidence, and everything falls into place. So I actually experienced that. As I told you, at the age of 21, I wanted to enter an industry and a business where there have been only men since the last 200, 300 years. So it was, it was almost looked at like a hobby. Like I'm hearing recently this term, that WhatsApp business, that, oh, fine, she wants to run a brand, fine, let her do it, let her conduct it. कल शादी हो जाएगी, ठीक है, बंद कर देंगे, slow कर देंगे, whatever, like in various aspects of my life, I've had to also fight for the position that I currently have. And I think that all starts with a belief in myself, and knowing that I can do it, and I'm no different from another cousin born in my family, and he's a guy. So or anybody else in this world for that matter. And that would apply for everyone. So that's, I'm extremely passionate about this whole topic of women empowerment. And I even like the other day, I was visiting my promoters in retail stores, and just because they're young 19, 20, 21-year-old girls, people think that they can push them around. I don't think that's the case. So I actually just, all I told them is that you have to work inside out. You have to tell yourself that you are the best, that you love yourself. So that's how it has to begin for each one of that girl out there, because there is so much talent in our country that gets wasted because of this unnecessary conditioning. And it's high time that we all end up breaking that. So even in FMCG, I was a novice when I started. I had no idea. I failed at distribution 2 times before. And I kept trying. And till the time you don't keep trying and keep at it and keep building your knowledge, which only actually comes with, number one, surrounding yourself with great people, and number 2, experience. So I just kept at it. And today, when it comes to distribution, when it comes to the knowledge that we have, I think there's still a long way to go. But one thing I know is that people will not be able to take us for a ride. And even if they think they are, we know what the real situation is. So coming to FMCG, I think FMCG is an amazing place to be. But one thing is that it's a very long-term play. So FMCG is not for the faint-hearted, for people to think that, oh, the market's amazing, let me launch a brand. There's a huge gap in the market, which there is, yes. But one has to have a long-term thinking with it. When I started, for 5-6 years, don't even think and get affected by your numbers, but just keep at it, keep working on differentiating yourself. So FMCG is a great place to be. An omni-channel presence is what will actually differentiate a brand versus the other, because an omni-channel presence will give us the ability to sustain and build financially well, versus building a D2C brand, which we spoke about, which is D2C is purely direct to consumer, which is a channel, a strategy, not the positioning of a brand. So when you're selling on Amazon and Flipkart, you're A2C and F2C, you're not D2C. So, it's a D2C brand play in India at the moment is not something that can be financially profitable or viable unless you have a major differentiator in the way that you reach your customer. So everybody who's out there wanting to build an FMCG brand, I would say that please go for it. But a long-term vision is very important. And how many successful FMCG brands are there that we know that have been built over a couple of years? None. All of them, all legacy brands are built over decades. So one must have that bandwidth, that mental bandwidth to be able to look at, if I'm sitting today in 2021, look at 2030, look at 2040, look at 2050, and then build an FMCG brand.
Absolutely. I think that was, I think you've done half the work for women empowerment by whatever you just said.
Thank you. That's my mission.
Yeah, great. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about Nutty Gritties and your more nascent brand 87?
So Nutty Gritties was actually something that I dreamt of building ever since I was 12, 13 years old. And in fact, even in school, I took part in a Rakhi Mela and just made a couple of packs of flavored cashews, got a great response. And I got a certain validation that, yes, this is what this is what I really want to do. And then while I was in college in California, very similar to what Ahana said, the way that people snack on nuts, the way that people snack there and the way that nuts are consumed over there is very different to what in 2009 was being consumed in India. India was only looking at dry fruits and nuts as weddings, as Diwali, as winter consumption, as your traditional morning consumption, raat ko badam bhigo ke subah kha lena type of a thing. And that's when I thought that, why can't India be snacking on nuts? And half my job had been done by all the nannies and dadis of India who already told their grandkids that dry fruits are good for you. So I did not have to convince them that nuts are healthy. But what we had to do is we had to put it out there in a different way, create great taste, great flavors, a great variety, and on-the-go packaging, convenient packaging. So we put it all out there together. And right now we have about 35 products in flavored nuts, in trail mixes. The brand is present omni-channel, on e-commerce, corporates, airlines, railways, retail, the government. So Nutty Gritties, cash and carry. In fact, I can show you some. This is actually one of our best sellers and my favorite mix. And this is the convenient on-the-go pack that we speak of, that people can just carry at any time and have it when they're hungry. So
इसका टाई तुमसे पैसा लेगा.
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's like your volume up. I told you
that was a subtle way of doing it. It's my background.
So yeah, Nutty Gritties was built for the whole concept of snacking on nuts. And while we were building Nutty Gritties, we realized a need for a trusted brand of dry fruits that can serve as kitchen essentials. So a trusted brand for your almonds that you want to soak overnight and have in the morning, for your pista that you want to put on the kheer, for the seeds that you want to use as an ingredient. So that's how 87 came into play. And 87 is also on e-commerce and retail and cash and carry. And the vision is to actually promote better health and spread the love with both these brands.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
So, Anna, so moving on to you. So, you are unjunking the 4 p.m. snacking, as you say. So, what channels have you chosen to sell your open secret snacks, and your reasons to choose them?
Yeah, no, I would say that, with Open Secret, the goal is how can we unjunk all the snacking moments, right? I think we just want to become a platform where people can shop for all their snacking moments. From a channel strategy, I think I definitely resonated with what Dhanika was mentioning, right? The omni-channel strategy play. And I would say that the way we think about channel, I think we are a brand which are, I'm sure every other brand is, but we are very, very consumer obsessed. So everything that we do is consumer first. So even from a channel perspective, the whole idea is, every channel has a very strategic role to play. So of course we have a direct to consumer. We are also present on e-commerce. We are also present in offline, but we know the power of all the channels and the value that they bring to the table. Of course, D2C is a good play, to for consumer loyalty perspective, to get feedback from the consumers. I think it's extremely important for an early stage brand like us to keep hearing back from our customers. In fact, all the innovation that we have done, we started with cookies and we came up with chips. It was all because we kept hearing from the mother. She said, can you give me something in savory? And that's how nutty chips were born. So D2C is extremely important from loyalty and feedback perspective. E-commerce, we're just a 15 months old brand, right? We launched very, very recently. But what e-commerce gives us is pan-India distribution. Just to give you an example, on Amazon, more than 60% of our sales come from outside top cities of the country. We hear from like very remote parts of the country, because even there, mothers and families, they're looking for a tasty and a healthy snack, right? And imagine that kind of a model in an offline world for a brand like us with limited resources. It would have been extremely difficult. We have a 2-member team, and then we can access to the entire country through the e-commerce. Having said that, our aspiration is to make every Indian family snack better, right? And we do understand that in order to have that deeper penetration in the country, offline is extremely, extremely important. So in top cities where we want to have deeper penetration, we have offline presence as well. So for example, in Mumbai, in Bangalore, in Gurgaon, in Ahmedabad, we are present in top stores. So the whole idea, as I said, it's all about having a very consumer first approach, and making it very convenient for them to pick you and to buy the brand. So that's how we think about channel.
Interesting. So, I mean, you are a marketing champion. I believe you've studied marketing. Want to know, how do you track the customer satisfaction matrix? I mean, since it's difficult to get in touch with the customers physically today in today's day and age.
Yeah, I would start by saying is definitely I won't call myself a champion at all. And I think I resonated with Rashmi when she said that things are changing so fast that if you rely on your previous knowledge, you will not exist. So I think FMCG, the way businesses are happening, it's getting disrupted. Even the offline play is getting disrupted. Like there are players like JioMart and Udan, which is giving a tech platform to startups to scale offline presence. So I would start by saying that if you really want to be a great marketer, be very, very curious, be very, very consumer first. And I think these are the two things that you need to obsess about, that just keep learning. There's so many new things happening. And of course, I think it's extremely critical to understand from understand what the customer is asking for. And the one mantra, and we do it every single time, is NPS, because I think NPS reflects the growth of the brand. You can actually look at the NPS of a brand and you can tell them what is going to be their story, right? So I remember when we started with Open Secret, right? It was a pre-COVID world. And the biggest problem that I heard from the mother was the tiffin snack. And she said that, sometimes I give cake in the tiffin, sometimes I give like a maida chocolate cookie in a tiffin, and I feel guilty about it, but at least I know ki dabba khali ho jayega. So I said, okay, let's just start with a very a delicious tiffin snack. And that's what basically nutty cookies were. That's how it came into existence. And we launched this pack. It was a 2-cookie pack. And there was also, a space where you can write a message. And the idea of that message came from my own personal experience. I remember when I used to come back from school, my mother would always leave a note next to my lunch. And that note would always bring a smile to my face. And I thought, when kids are going to school, just seeing a note from a mother or from a dad will do the same, right? So we started with that. The people love the idea, people love the concept. But then during the lockdown, we also heard our NPS score went down slightly, and people said that we want a bigger pack of cookies, because now what is happening in the consumption pattern is that every family member, they're having a tea or they're having a coffee and they are sitting together and enjoying that cookie. So we want a minimal packaging options, and we heard them and we launched another 6 cookie, a bigger pack. So the whole idea, I think, as I think on our journey, one thing which we closely monitor is NPS, and getting that feedback from customer, not only to fuel our future innovation, but also to make changes with our current portfolio if needed, because we are very committed to serve every customer better every single day.
Awesome. So, Rashmi, moving on to you again, and I'm also taking some audience questions that are coming. So, one is, what are your comments on the future of healthy food in India? Uh, uh, would you be expanding to tier 2 cities as well soon? Yeah, these are the two questions that you want to
Sure.
hear.
So healthy food, I think there's a very interesting journey in India. And when we started in 2014, healthy was actually a dreaded word in food. I think the big warning from everybody was, if you start a brand where you promise healthy, you will be a very, very niche brand and it won't work. So we were very careful in not using healthy in any of our communication. What we did do though was to make food more contemporary. The food was more grilled. The food was not super fried. From a delivery food point of view, single box, a lot more balance of between carb, protein, fiber, etc. So I think as a company, we were focused on making food great for you and work for you, but we never used the word healthy in the overall position. I think by 2017, there was a clear trend of people identifying that fresh menu is a healthy food option because it was way better than most other options in the market. So I think we had a rub off of doing good for people. So I think that's where I would that's my experience with how health is evolving in this country. I think when a lot of us believe that health food has arrived, I would say it's still a very small market. And health in India is a spectrum, right? The moment I switch from white rice to brown rice, I would claim I'm eating very healthy. I may not understand the calorie count or what works for my body or what is general, from a health food perspective, what is truly healthy or what is optically healthy. So I think there is a spectrum, but I think people are making the switch. There is every small change that people could opt for, they are opting for it. And the industry is shifting around the same way. So some of us would lead the trend, would bring in more superfood ingredients, would try to make healthier bowls, would make salads more on the menu, keto as an option on the menu. So obviously there is an experiment, there's foot in the door, but it is not the biggest driver of sales. The biggest driver of sales still remains rice and chicken. So I think health food is evolving. More customers are aware, they are seeking better choices. But I think it is still, a few more years before it becomes a sizable chunk of the market. That's on the health food space. In terms of going to tier two, see, aspiration wise, yes, we would love to cover the whole of India. But I think the core heavy density demand for delivery food stays in big cities. And I think there is still a lot of work to be done in big cities. All of us are still grappling with basics of, making great food, getting it delivered on time without any mistakes. So I think there's a lot of work to be finished in the big cities before you really aspire to do the right model for the smaller cities. And the smaller cities demand has to pick up. So I guess from our point of view, it's not like, jump and cover the whole of India. That's not the answer. It is a business that has to work city by city, and every kitchen's ops has to work, economics have to work. So you have to be careful of what you're choosing to do.
Sure, sure. So, just a follow-on question to that. So, why didn't you also explore a subscription model since you were doing a rotational menu?
Yeah, interesting. So, see, I think subscription one back. I think it just seemed hard, and India has not been a subscription country. On multiple categories, subscription hasn't really taken off, apart from probably your Tata Sky subscription, which was the biggest thing that people were using. I think so. One, it seemed like customers are okay if you leave them with the choice open. You would want to encourage subscription kind behavior, like come back to us twice a week, but you would not want to tie them up with the subscription and then it gets harder. Also, in a business like this, I don't think we can offer massive benefits on subscription because each order still needs to be delivered and it is fresh food. It's not really like, massive economies can come if I offer you subscription versus you ordering alone. And that's back of the envelope calculation, which did not get us to offer food as a subscription program. We did bring in a Fresh Club membership program, so you create some benefits around being a loyal customer. I think today we are looking at building out a more health food subscription offering, but it has to be really thought through and deep in its value proposition before to really launch it out in the market.
Sure, sure. Meera, moving on to you. So why do you think Eat Fit didn't take off the way Cult Fit did? And your advice to the foodpreneurs of today?
So at EatFit, we being a part of the health and fitness platform, so being a part of CureFit, CultFit, of course, has a wider reach as a format, no gym equipment, free form exercise, really, and group classes. It really did take off. Speaking for EatFit, we did, get a lot of customer love. In 2.5 years, we grew to 80 plus locations. 65,000 meals every day. We are design ready for 100,000 meals every day, 35 plus NPS, 0.5% defect rate. So with all of this, EatFit did have a lot of customer love, a lot of success in a lot of ways. So, if you put it in perspective as a business, as a food business, it was, and it continues to be successful. The reason we were able to do all of that were, focus on three things. Number one was technology. So we utilized technology in every possible way to optimize the business, to, improve on the delivery timing, to, improve on our wastage. So in effect, to help the better and the bottom line. Then we really focused on food safety and quality. We have the ROC setup, which is remote operating center. We have the control tower. We have our food safety teams ensuring that the quality of food, the appearance of food, everything is exactly how the design is set for it. This brought a lot of customer loyalty. And the third was the obsessive focus on customer experience, be it delivery time, be it the appearance of the food, the taste. Every single customer got an opportunity to rate our food after having the meal. And this was something that was discussed on a daily basis. The metrics were tracked on, hourly basis almost, to ensure that the customer had a good experience. Right. So I think EatFit has a lot of promise, and being on a health and fitness platform, it was clear that we are a health food brand, and the customers did appreciate that.
Sure. So there's a question from Arun for you. So does the cloud kitchen as a business model work, and what is the food cost one should operate to make it work? I think you and Rashmi would be apt to take this.
So, cloud kitchen as a model does work. The retail rentals, the high street rentals for restaurants are 20%. So if business does work, however, it's a customer acquisition cost that really adds up, and bringing people to the platform and retaining customers, that is something one would have to really look at deeply, in my opinion.
Sure. Rashmi, you would want to take a quick.
I think adding to that, see, cloud kitchen business model, I think a couple of things. One, brand. I think the capability to generate demand or bring people back defines the economics. At a variable level or at a gross level, each order can make money, but the overall business makes money only if you have an overall set of demand and you can pay for fixed expenses. Food cost, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. So depending on brands which offer food for what occasion, what average order values, or what is the total density for their location. So let's say a brand could work at 40% COGS, but if their manpower cost was very low, or if their demand was so high that it still makes money at 40% COGS. And there could be a brand which is working at 25% COGS, but has extreme labor cost, etc., or some other packaging costs. So I think it's a combination of costs that would define overall economics. But the biggest power stays with being a brand, ability to pull demand, and repeat customers.
Sure. So, Danika, moving on to you. So, do you can you elaborate the steps to create a successful D2C strategy, and what BTL activities and what ATL activities, if you want to like quote examples of the BTL and ATL activities that you would have done that would have worked for you or not worked for you.
So, as I mentioned in the last question, that D2C has to be accompanied with an omni-channel presence and presence across platforms, or you have to find a way to reach the customer super quick, like faster than anybody else is doing, and provide an offering to them that even they didn't know that they needed, and now they know that they do. So it's innovation has to be in product, innovation has to be in the way to reach the customer, and marketing has to be all about providing joy to the customer in that experience. And I think the brand ethos that one has to build while building D2C is, as Ahana said, the customer connect. But it's not only about doing a sale, making a sale and transaction. You have to go ahead of just a simple transaction, and customer acquisition, customer retention. All of this actually comes secondary in that, and it's actually about building that brand loyalty, that brand ethos. And India is not a very brand loyal country. People, especially millennials, are constantly looking for a change. They get bored of having the same thing over and over again. So, how can we solve for that? And I mean, what we can do around that will solve for the D2C strategy. And in terms of ATL and BTL, so ATL is a funny story. When we started Nutty Gritties, this is in 2010, we had a contract with Barista to sell our products at Barista. And that was actually one of our first big contracts. And I thought to myself, oh, can I have hoardings all across the area? And that'll probably help boost the sales. And I was such a novice, and I'm so glad that I didn't do it, because I would end up burning money. ATL right now, it depends on the scale. BTL works much better for small scale brands. And one thing that has worked very, very well for us is in-store sampling and promotions. Because if we have a product that tastes extremely amazing and great, then the customer is going to buy it. Plus, also, the promoters for us are not only about being there at the store and selling the product. They're representing the brand. They're representing the values of the brand. So our promoters are actually trained to go and just offer help to any customer that needs it. If there's an old person who's dragging a trolley, just offer to drag their trolley instead. To actually identify that, how they can make the customer shopping experience even better. So it's all a whole brand image that you've got to build, and BTL helps in that regards.
Absolutely. So I'll just take like two quick questions from the audience. So one is from Vikram. I think this is more for Danika and Ahana. How do you build and deal with retailers and distributors? And a question from Shilpi, which is I think specifically to Ahana. And how did you decide on your pricing strategy? Was it to appeal to the masses? So if you would want to take a quick shot at it, Danika.
Sure. So I think let me first answer the pricing strategy. I guess, and this is something which I tell to my team as well, that what we need to obsess with is value. Because when we're talking to a mother, she's thinking about what to give to the kid, what to give to the family. So the communication has to be very, very focused about value, because she is a value conscious customer. She is not a very price conscious customer. And like, for example, like Danika is selling almonds and nuts, right? I mean, if you offer nuts are premium, then your maida and all of that, but she understands the value of nuts, and she will be willing to pay a little more. So for me, the biggest learning has been, are we able to communicate the value? That is number one. one. Number two, I would say that from an MRP perspective, what we have seen is, for example, a box will be priced at what the competitor is pricing. However, the price per grammage might be lower, and that's because we are using a much superior ingredients versus what other brands might be using. And I think that's just the choice that we have made, that we don't want to compromise on the quality of the product. So A, just to summarize, A, focus on the value over the price, and B, of course, there is some price anchoring, so we keep the same MRP as a competitor, but just play with the grammage. And the second question, from a distribution standpoint, right? I think the way offline is happening right now, there are different models that we are also trying. So, for example, in cities like Mumbai and Bangalore, we are directly servicing to the retailer. And the whole idea there was because we wanted to get the feedback about what is happening exactly at the store. Because now we also have a wide variety of product. For us, we really want to reimagine the value chain of FMCG. And we want to try out different models. However, in Delhi, we're also going with a distributor model. But the whole idea, as I said, we are a very online heavy business. More than 80-90% is online. Offline is deeper penetration in certain pin codes where we see a huge demand online. And I think that is just to make it more accessible to families and that. And even within offline, just trying out different models.
Sure.
I would just like to add a bit here from the other side.
Okay.
So a lot of young companies, at least what I've noticed, is people try to price it, very, very aggressively, thinking that's what attracts consumers. And then they want the distribution to take it up and say, oh, no, but I can offer only 15% commission, etc. Retail is used to a certain percentage of commission. And for new products, ideally, they would demand more commission than less commission. So it's very, very important that you factor the cost of distribution. You factor, that you would need to shell out that money, and then the MRP needs to make sense, because just keeping a lower MRP alone is not going to solve your problem.
Absolutely. I think all of us have learned the hard way that, if you price your product low and try to sell it that way, the customer gets loyal to your price and not to your product. Yeah. So I think we've all been through that.
I just like to add one thing to it, actually, that for a distributor and retailer, you have to create value for both of them. So to be successful in this model, every single person in the value chain, you have to create value for. So once that is done, once they are passionate about selling your product, then you've made it.
Sure. So, Ahana, I believe you've kept your manufacturing in-house and not with a contract manufacturer. And your manufacturing team comprises 70% women. So, is that true? And what was your thought process behind this?
Yeah, no, I think I remember when I was thinking about building this brand earlier. Very clear theory, right? Whatever we are good at, what our expertise is, we want to keep it in-house. What our expertise is not there, we're going to outsource it. So started with this model that we're going to outsource our manufacturing. And then we started meeting a lot of contract manufacturers. Like I visited spaces in Bhiwandi. We were a brand which cannot give any volume commitment to a CM, right? We were extremely small, haven't even launched the product. So the big players were not talking to us. We didn't have that luxury and liberty. And then we started talking to our small players. And when I visit their facility, it was like not all clean. I would not have felt comfortable creating a brand out of that facility. And I realized that if I really wanted to create a brand which stands for quality, and I think everyone spoke about the importance of quality in food, it was extremely important that we make it in-house. And the other thing I would say that it was so good to hear when Meera spoke about bringing voice to the table, women voice to the table. I think Danika also mentioned about it. I think I share the same sentiment. The part of the city, the part of the country where I grew up in Rajasthan, unfortunately, equal opportunities don't exist. So I feel I was very fortunate that I was born in a family where my mother encouraged me to dream big. Having said that, there were a lot of girls in my community where their families were okay with mediocre education for them, but they had best in class for dreams for their sons. And I think that really shaped me who I am today. I think I have seen the disparity which exists. And with this brand, Of course, we are targeting mothers and we want to make their life more convenient, but we want to empower women not only with the products, we also want to do it in every decision that we're making at Open Secret. So when we were building manufacturing in-house, the first day one, I told my team that we have to employ women. And I strongly believe that if you really want to empower women, make them financially independent. So we hired women from local communities. So all the snacks that you see, whether it's cookies, chips, spreads or not, they are made by women from local community. And during lockdown, some of the stories that they shared with me, that the men in the family were not working and they were the bread earners. So I think as a women-led company, I feel it's not only a choice that I have, but it's a responsibility to give back and to create a difference.
Very nice. So, Rashmi, coming back to you. So, do you plan to enter the FMCG space as well, or you plan to stick to the cloud kitchen space only?
Yeah, I think right now there's a lot to do in the cloud kitchen space. We've right now partnered with a couple of people where the products fit into our space, and we could offer that to customers. Obviously, aspirations are there, and there's certain ideas that you could create packaged food or smaller shelf life products. So there's obviously some trial going around in the background, but it's not like we would want to just jump out of cloud kitchens and move into FMCG.
Sure, sure. So, I think there are some interesting questions that have come from the audience. So, what I'll do is I'll just throw them to you guys, and if you can answer it like one-liners. How do you all manage food innovation, and how do you all build a team and retain them? If you all would want to take a crack at this, Rashmi, if you would want to start.
Yeah, okay, I can start. Yeah, so food innovation, I think it's actually a very, very vast area, and sometimes and some of the mistakes that we did early were get carried away by our own biases. So I think over years of experience, the first thing you understand is innovations to work under guardrails and business principles. So it's more guided innovation. Also innovation, I guess, see, as founders and as food, something which is very, very close to our heart, you always have some role to play in innovation, but you need to get experts in the domain. You need to keep the team motivated, and you create some amount of process around the whole innovation, around how to measure success, because otherwise innovation could be all over the place. So I guess it's setting up and creating room for creativity while creating some guardrails and processes around it is what I would say is important to figure out.
Sure. Meera, would you want to have a crack at it?
So at EatFit, we took food innovation very, very seriously. So we had a food design team, which comprised of a nutrition expert, along with chefs and even people who, like me, who just were food enthusiasts. So any new recipe would be tried at scale and tested in the, within the office internally, and we would get a food rating. Then we would dog food it at 2 or 3 different locations and gather customer ratings on their feedback. And that's when we decided if it was, if the rating was good and the recipe was good at scale, that's when we rolled it out to all the kitchens. So it was a long drawn process. We would take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to launch a new recipe.
Nice. So I think since Rashmi and Meera have spoken about food innovation, Dinika and Ahana, would you guys want to speak on building a team and retaining them?
So, for building a team, you've got to empower them. You've got to make them feel like they own the brand. We have people like the first employee still working with us who joined 12 years back. So, he feels like it's his own brand, and it pains him if anything goes wrong. It brings them super excitement if something goes right. Ever since he joined till now, he's had 4 children, and all the 4 children are almost adopted by DRB Foods. So it's you've got to treat your team like a family. You've got to trust them, you've got to believe in them, and you've got to empower them. That's the only way.
Sure.
I think the most important factor personally to me when you're thinking about team building is culture. And I can't emphasize the criticality of having the right culture. If you ask me, the biggest challenge that I face as a CEO of a company is, as we scale up, as we grow, as we're hiring more and more people, how are we maintaining the culture of the organization? Because the biggest asset to a founder when you're scaling up is culture. And whenever we are hiring people, you might be the best in class, you might have the absolute right skill set, but if we feel that the culture is not right, then of course we don't see a good fit. So we never compromise on the culture piece, and I think that's the one of the most important responsibility that I see as a leader of the organization.
Sure. Nice. So, what was the MVP for each of you guys whenever you all started your business, and how would that be at this time? And one single huge mistake that each of you committed, which you would want the entrepreneurs of today to not commit, is the question from Shraddha, I guess. Okay, now we can go reverse. Anna, if you would want to start, I think your MVP would be fresh.
So I think so when you think about MVP, I think what I truly believe in is speed to market and to have the agility. So it took us 7 months from ideation to launch for cookies. It took us 3 months for chips. It took us a month for our new categories. So the whole idea is basically, and from a food innovation perspective, right, it's very simple. We just hear from the mother. She's a North Star, what she wants to remove, what she wants to add, and we just create it. But the whole idea is, rather than doing a lot of surveys before launching, we launch it, we hear back from the customers, we keep iterating the product until we feel confident, okay, that this is how we want to go about it. So that's how we think about product innovation. The second question is about mistakes. I don't know. I think every single day is a learning experience. And what I feel is, I think every 3 months we become a new company because we are growing so fast. So what might have worked 3 months back will not work now. And I think that is something which I keep on focusing on, that am I learning enough? Am I growing enough at the rate at which the company is growing? Is my leadership team growing enough? And the other thing is, one thing which I would say that, one thing which I've realized on this journey is that when you're thinking about an organization, you need to have thinkers and you need to have doers. One mistake which you can do early on is not giving enough time to thinkers by making them do, and asking the doers to do the thinking part. So as we are growing, as we are building the organization, I always ensure that we have enough thinkers and we have enough doers, because I think that's where because you're always resource crunch, right? I mean, you're always working with very limited resources. I think that's where the balance can go wrong. So that will be one watch out from my side.
Interesting. Danika, you would want to go?
So, for us, what really differentiates us is our taste and variety. And I think I'd like to say that our nuts taste the best in the world. And I'm really, really confident about that. And taking on from innovation as well. Innovation comes from every aspect. We have an R&D team and a lab and a food technologist and all of that. But innovation can come from a customer, it can come from an employee, it can come from a need, it can come from a review on Amazon. So we're an innovation center, and that's why we have this limited edition where we're launching a new product every month for the consumer. That keeps them going and keeps them driven towards the brand. And about mistakes, I would say that made lots of mistakes. And when we started Nutty Gritties, actually, we were a bit ahead of the curve. And but I just kept being persistent. But I would say that, to study the market and to keep taking feedback very, very quickly and soon and at short intervals, and keep implementing that feedback. So mistakes are great. I mean, if you've not made mistakes, then you're not in the right direction. So mistakes are actually amazing, and it's good to make. I actually encourage my team to make mistakes, and then just once though. But it's great. It's a great learning. It's a learning curve, and that's how great organizations are built, by learning from your mistakes.
Sure, definitely. Mira, do you remember your MVP stage days?
I do, and I'm reminded of my MVP stage days every time I talk to a new founder who's pitching at ScaleX. So one advice I would want to give to all the founders, who are listening in, would be, if you're a food tech company, remember that tech is not your product. Food is your product, and focus on the food. I would hear a pitch and there would be 5 slides about the tech and very little mention about the details of the food. So no amount of tech is going to fix your product. So focus on the core, make sure you have a great product, and the rest can be optimized. You iterate along the way and you fix, but you have to be obsessive about your.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rashmi, do you want to speak about your MVP days?
Yeah, quite a bit's being said. I think the point about focus on food. I think food is so critical, and I think Indian taste palette is so diverse that I think getting it right, and it needs massive amount of iteration and focus and passion to get food right. Everything else could come in later. So I think the MVP, for example, for Fresh Menu, the site was made on Shopify. Our own site came like a year and a half later, because the focus was food, right? Get your kitchen in order. For example, making multi-cuisine food was something that a lot of people dissuaded us from, that it's not possible and it can't be done, etc. So, for example, breaking some barrier and creating a concept or executing a concept in food would take away all your energy. So I guess the focus has always to be on food.
Sure. So so normally to end any webinar, I usually say that the webinar was very informative and very inspiring. But today I actually want to say this. Everything that you guys said, it was so inspiring and it was it was so practical. Uh, please continue to inspire all of us. I think I remember Rashmi had mentioned that she was, she was so focused on the product and not on the networking. I hope, I could be 30% as focused as you are and committed as you guys are. So, interestingly, there is, I just got a note that there is David from Thai, Germany, who also wants to invite all 4 of you to speak to the women in Germany. So I think Trupti from Thai team will get in touch with you guys for that. I think David was also listening to this chat today, and he's just sent a note on that. So I will ask Trupti to get in touch with you guys for that. I hope you guys
Talking
will.
about global reach.
Yeah, probably. And thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us. And to the audience, I think I could not have completed all your questions. In case we find any more interesting questions, I will definitely shoot it out to the speakers, and I will wait for them to revert on email, and I will try and get that sorted. I will hand it over to Trupti again.
Thank you so much, everyone who has joined us today. Thank you, Dinika. Thank you, Ahana, Rashmi, Meera. It was a wonderful panel. I know we are guilty where we do not have women's panel more often, and especially for Thai Food Network. So, Sanket, please make a note of that. We need to call more foodpreneurs here, especially women. And thanks a ton, guys. Rab, could you share the screen, please? So we have the series of next events that is aligned. So we have the Entrepreneurs Wellbeing series, which is scheduled on the 27th. We will be sending across the mail with the details. We have the second series for the Women Foodpreneur, where we have Parizad Zorabian, who would be coming in. She is an actress, as everyone knows, but she's also a director with Zorabian Chicken. Next one, please. Please join us on Slack. We are also sending across the link to everyone. That's a very good community building exercise that we would want to encourage, moving from the regular emailers and messages. And I would like to invite all the panelists to join us for Thai Food Network. I think you guys will bring in a lot of your thought leadership to this, and the community will be a better place with you guys. Please join us for that.
But Trupti, just to add, so I believe you guys had Thai Stree Shakti or something, from and listening to whatever all our panelists have said today, you guys should invite them for Thai Stree Shakti and or maybe revive it if it's not already in the ruling.
We'll try to do that futuristically. So one step at a time. Let's focus on Thai Food Network.
Sure. All right.
Thank you so much, guys. Pleasure having you guys.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Thank you,
much.
guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Everyone, bye.
Thank you. Bye.